We are in a civil war. That's USA Today. America is headed to a civil war? No, we're already in it, it says. USA Today. We are in a civil war. I say, well, I think we're in a soft civil war, but the Democrats intend to go into overdrive by August. They're saying it. They're announcing it. You know, your enemy's announcing, we will launch the civil war and surround and overthrow them. Target all Republicans. Hit them in the head. Burn their houses down. Here's where they live. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been gone for 2 days. Took off most of the time. But boy, I tell you, wild horses couldn't drag me away. I've been researching quite a bit, and we are in the middle of incredible history right now. Let me just try to be calm here and then tell you what's coming up in this devastatingly important first hour of the broadcast that no one needs to miss. It's essential. The globalists are launching a worldwide planetary destabilization program to collapse Western nations using weaponized third world populations in countries they've already collapsed by design. This is all declassified, admitted. There's major resistance forming all over the planet and counter-striking. Globalism in its current system is in major death throes, but attempting to claw back victory from the grave. I said last week that the Democrats were going to crescendo level, calling for civil war, in their words, violence, burning down government buildings, killing the president, kidnapping his son, raping him. People are getting shot at, attacked, killed, record arrest of people trying to kill Republicans. You've heard the clips. Surround the White House with a million people, overthrow Trump, full-page ads, New York Times, Michael Moore. So much of it, I can't even keep track of it. I spent an hour this morning just search engineing the last week of them calling for civil war. And why is that so important? Because they're such deceivers. They came out in hundreds of publications yesterday, major publications, and said, Jones said there was going to be a civil war and shooting and death in the streets on July 4th. It didn't happen. No, in the video they showed, I simply pointed out that I see July 4th as a demarcation line with their chatter intensifying of when we look back in history, we'll see this as the period in the summer of 2018, the summer of rage, that launched into a potential civil war. And I see it as the demarcation line that they are announcing that they're launching it. I mean, heavens. I'm the one popularizing the last 2 years they're planning this since he was president-elect. And now it was in hundreds, USA Today, Reuters, everywhere last week, saying we are in a civil war. That's USA Today. America is headed to a civil war? No, we're already in it, it says. USA Today. We are in a civil war. I say, well, I think we're in a soft civil war, but the Democrats intend to go into overdrive by August. They're saying it. They're announcing it. You know, your enemy's announcing, we will launch the civil war and surround and overthrow them. Target all Republicans. Hit them in the head. Burn their houses down. Here's where they live. I've experienced the physical attacks. I've experienced them throwing beverages on me and knocking my drinks over at restaurants and saying, we hate your family. F your family. And then 2 gay guys trying to start a fight with my son at the airport, flying back from Colorado a few months ago. I mean, they were pretty big guys, too, but they were saying threatening things to me. I just laughed them off. But then as soon as I turned my phone off, I've got the video, they go over to get him because he'd already got his bags and was leaving. Said, you want some? You want some? To a 15-year-old person. What cowards. And over the week, especially on July 4th, people were beaten up, drugged by vehicles, attacked, drinks thrown on them, their hats torn away, punched in the head, houses vandalized. Boom, July 4th, boom. It just jumped, just like I said, exactly. But then how do they grab the fact that we're right and turn it into a defeat? They go, Jones claimed the North versus the South would line up again in all the articles and show Confederate soldiers versus blue, saying I said that was going to happen, as if their readers are so dumb that I'm saying it's the Civil War of the 1860s, not the new Civil War we're in that's global against globalism. See how dumb they think you are? It's all coming up straight ahead.
surprise, do you think?
Everyone thinks so, but I would never say it. You know what I want to do? I want to get it finished. The prize I want is victory for the world.
This is the heart of 1776. You're a white male!
It's also what happens when you listen to the radio host, Alex Jones.
Move, bitch! Get out the way!
We pledge allegiance to one flag, and that flag is the American flag.
InfoWars helped fuel the rumor that President Obama is an ISIS supporter.
It's been a cozy relationship from the beginning.
I will not let you down. You will be very, very impressed, I hope. And I think we'll be speaking a lot.
Donald Trump and Alex Jones.
This means that Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States.
Waging war on corruption. It's
Alex Jones.
Since yesterday, I have had two of the InfoWars researchers culling the internet of just the last 2 weeks, from mainstream news, Democratic Party statements, you name it. And I said, put together all the threats against the president, his family, against free speech, calls for his family to be kidnapped, raped, murdered, calls for Rand Paul to be kidnapped, raped, murdered, his family's intestines strewn around their house, the arrests that were made over that, Rob Reiner saying we're in a civil war, Michael Moore saying it's time to have 1 million people surround the Capitol and then overthrow Trump, Alan Dershowitz saying that at parties in Martha's Vineyard, people say, get out of here, I'm going to stab you through the heart. Told Tucker Carlson that last night. There's so many of these reports. Rob Dew just walked in. He said, I don't know if I can have this for you today. And I went, what do you mean? You could get me 10 clips in an hour. He goes, we hadn't done research. We didn't even know. He goes, there's so much of it that this is a whole other story in and of itself. And see, that's what they've done. They've hit us with such saturation of muggings and violence and people getting shot and beat up and stabbed and drugged by cars and hot coffee dumped on them, that there's like 50 cases a day that we know of, and generally for something to get politically reported, maybe 100 times more are happening we don't know about. So here's what's happening. Democrats are running around, ramming people with cars, shooting them, beating them up, dragging with cars, dumping coffee on their heads, grabbing their mega hats, threatening to stab them in the chest, threatening to beat up my son at the airport. I didn't report that. That wasn't on the news. I mentioned it here. It's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy how crazy these people are. And I've even had things happen to my family this week that I can't get into on air yet. But let's just say this. I've had medical providers activate against us and literally start trying to get involved in my life because I'm Alex Jones. Like your family goes to the pediatrician, your family goes to a doctor, some family goes to a psychologist, and they say, Alex is bad, you got to get him. I mean, it's so cult-like that and they've all activated, and they're so crazy, and they really believe we're the enemy, and they're going completely insane. They believe it's their absolute right. And there's one unifying thing about these people. They are super, ultra stupid. They're the dumbest of the dumb, like the guy last week that called up a bunch of people in the State House and said, I'm coming to murder you, and don't try to come get me. And, of course, they had his caller ID and went and arrested him. And the guy has like an 80 IQ, it turns out, but he's a Democratic Party volunteer. They really believe we're these Nazis. They really believe we're trying to hurt the country. And they're being told this by the media. They're being told this, that this is how they're good and this is how they're pure. I mean, when they're online, mainline Democratic Party individuals with millions of followers are tweeting out last week from The Great Escape with Steve McQueen when Nazis are at a French cafe, and the French resistance mows them down, and they say Sarah Huckabee Sanders is lucky this didn't happen to her. This is what we're going to start doing. And Twitter doesn't even sanction them. They say, hey, you're lucky. Next, we're going to start machine gunning you in cafes. Then some deranged guy with a 7-year beef in Maryland over a girl he reportedly stalked goes in and shoots 5 people in a newspaper. Turns out he was a liberal, by the way. And they turn that into Trump made him go do it. No, that was a 7-year lawsuit and beef. It's crazy. So like they seize on one thing, go, look, you're causing violence. Oh, look, you're bad. Meanwhile, Trump's saying we shouldn't be violent. We should be peaceful. And then they spin that as if we're the ones wanting violence. And then it gets worse. We're going to have, I told him, just go with what you've got. At the end of this hour, bring me what you've got. We'll air it later in the next hour. All these different clips and things of them calling for violence. But what's even crazier is, on the 4th of July, they had the Washington Post, the New York Times, so many publications, I couldn't even keep track of it, so I just ignored it. But it's in the hundreds. And then hundreds more yesterday saying, oh, Jones said there'd be a civil war. Didn't happen on July 4th. He's crazy. Here's the article on the Washington Post. Document cam shot, please. A short history of Alex Jones claiming that the left is about to start a civil war. And see, this is me actually being proven right starting about 1.5 years ago, saying, look, they want to overthrow the government. They want a civil emergency. They want to slowly increase the riots until they finally get a catalyst point so that when there's a major uprising, it overwhelms the country, the borders collapse, the UN has to come in. That's what Soros and the UN are saying. That's what they're doing in Europe with the giant migrant waves. We're 10 million. Now they're saying it's going to be 20 million, then 50 million. This is all being announced. Austria, Hungary have joined forces. They're putting up emergency walls. They're already seeing numbers hitting that were worse than the migrant crisis at its peak in 2016 in Europe. You know, the giant snakes of millions of people coming in. It's on. They are seeing waves at least as big or bigger. One report out of Macedonia was people screaming Allah Akbar, climbing the fence, was 5 times the previous record numbers. And Soros has ships coming across doing it. So here it is, a short list, a history of Alex Jones claiming that the left is about to start a civil war. So they're all, Rob Reiner says we're in a civil war. Michael Moore says rise up, surround the Capitol, throw Trump out. Full-page ads, New York Times. Antifa says rise up. They're attacking people that try to have prayer vigils anywhere in the country, in any blue city. Christians can't even have demonstrations in America with these monster authoritarians. And then they spin it all over the news saying, I said the North versus the South. That's what they put in all these articles. In blue and gray uniforms are going to line up in the battle, you know, that starts in Virginia. When this is a totally new world, hundreds of years later, and I'm talking clearly about what they're doing, they spin it and they go, oh, where's the Civil War? Well, there were increased attacks all over the country that you called for. And we're going to go over them. But that's how dumb they think their viewers and listeners and readers are. It's also on TV. Misdirecting the reality. When, in truth, it was USA Today and everybody last week that said we're already in a civil war. USA Today, a civil war has already begun. USA Today. America, an emerging soft civil war, a term I coined, by the way. They're just using, not giving me credit, it's fine. Washington Times. New American Civil War. RT. Congressman warns we're in a civil war. Meanwhile, it all starts. I mean, we know of hundreds of attacks the last few days, massively escalating on July 4th. And then they turn around and go, we're not attacking. Don't run. We are your friends. Just like Mars attacks. They came in peace. CNN is not the enemy of the American people. We love the American people. And then they stab you in the gut. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
You're a white man! You're a white man!
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
This 4th of July is special. Everybody can see it. They can feel it. The globalists are attempting to kill a worldwide awakening to their tyranny. And America, yet again, is at the heart of the resistance, the globalist. That's why this 4th of July, I'm asking all of our great supporters to think about InfoWars now more than ever. And what would the world be like if InfoWars wasn't there resisting the globalists? What would have happened if you hadn't supported InfoWars? We would not be having the victories we have today. So yes, a lot of good things are happening, but the enemy is striking back. So please, think about InfoWars and funding our operation while you get great products at the same time on this 4th of July that's so historic. We have record sales going on right now. Free shipping on hundreds of different items. More than 20 items are 50% off, like Brain Force Plus. X2 is 40% off. Knockout Sleep Aid, $17.76. Silver Bullets, $9.95 colloidal silver. And free shipping, you can't beat that. This 4th of July is special, and our sales are special to match it. InfoWarsStore.com.